There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital, the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no, which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Hello, cousins. Thank you for joining us for another all-new episode of Social Contract. I am always kicking it to our theme song. I love our theme song. You could thank our own Mr. Mayor Jared for that one. And I never get tired of it. It's like I hear it for the first time every time I hear it. You can't see me because I'm off camera, but I'm sitting here bouncing to it every time I play it. So,
I'm very glad you like it. I like it too.
I love it. I think it's great. I think we have the best theme song in independent media, but I'm a little biased. Yes, so thank you for joining us on this 2-week anniversary of I can't even get my words right. The presidential, I kept trying to say the politician election, but presidential election. Some of those, I'm so done. I'm so done with it. That's where we are at this stage. When you get to the point of being 2 weeks out, like this is the first year I've ever experienced being an official commentator on it. And it's so much worse than just being a person who's just angry all the time about observing it. Like you are in it. And at this point, I just don't want anything more to do with it. And it's like, oh, good. That's cool. Not going to happen. So, all right, we're 2 weeks out. So, yes. And we're actually going to take a little bit of a departure from what we normally talk about today, as much as we possibly can, because we said this a few times that we see republicanism, conservatism, Trump, all those topics to us are, kind of beneath mentioning, low hanging fruit there. We know they're horrible. They don't, we only have so much time to talk per week. And we feel like the Democrats should know better and that there should be a strong difference between parties. But when the parties have basically united and you have Republicans supporting the Democrats openly, publicly, and the Democrats leaning into that, there's not a lot of leeway where you can throw your support if you find yourself outside that whole uniparty system. So that's why we're always talking about the Democrats and we're pissed about what they're doing. We know we're not, supporting Republicans, but we also don't ever talk about them. So we're going to try to take a little bit of time to talk about what a shit show the whole Team Trump thing is. And even though it kind of feels redundant because, we've done it before, or we all personally do it, everybody's like, oh God, this is so stupid. But we're going to try to go there because a big thing is when you're on the left and you talk down the Democrats, then conservatives seem to jump all over you like, yeah, you're one of us. No, we're not. So we're going to.
Or you're accused by people on the left of being a supporter of a different side. It's like we're so direction brained that if you say something bad about one side of this same coin, that it's like, oh, you must support the other side of this coin, and it's right. Now we're trying to kind of get beyond that.
Yeah, it's sort of the entire MO of the left of just like, hey, we don't fit into this political spectrum. Even if you don't necessarily consider yourself leftist or want to, put a name on it, and you don't consider yourself part of the political spectrum or that you're represented by these people. We find ourselves in the same boat. So as Jared says wisely, we are trying to move beyond those kind of monikers and things. But I get a lot of friend requests from conservatives, and they're like, "Our president." I'm like, "I don't think so, bud." So yeah, that's where we are today. Let's shout out the chat real quick while we're here. Yes, our perpetual friend, Are You Time Traveler too? Hello, thank you for joining us. We are live. We've been asked before. We tape live, so if you want to speak with us, join our Twitch channel, YouTube. We're live on YouTube, live on Twitter, so you can find us. Anyway, that's where we are. So this is 2 weeks outside of a horrible election that's, again, supposed to be the most important election of our lifetime.
The most important election of our lifetime, Redux.
Yeah, Redux, yeah.
The 20th one in a row we've managed to have.
Yeah. It reminds me of in the 90s when they had Rock the Vote, when they were trying to get college kids who were completely, and rightly so, apathetic to get behind voting. And there was this whole MTV thing, this whole essentially propaganda scheme called Rock the Vote. That was really like, concerts and cool guys. And if you've ever seen, it's Black Sheep. I always get Black Sheep and Tommy Boy mixed up, but if you get by name, I know which one is which. I grew up in the 90s. I'm, SNL savvy. But the fact of it is that Black Sheep is the political one. And if and they do a whole segment on Rock the Vote, and that's the whole thing where they get there, and then the Chris Farley is playing the brother of the candidate who kind of gets sudden fame, and then they pull him out on stage, and he's like, yeah, and everybody's riled up, and he just screams, "Kill Whitey," and everybody just goes silent. So that was Rock the Vote. If you're new to this, that was the Rock the Vote era, very Bill Clinton era. Was behind it. He'd come out and play some saxophone, some dumb shit like that, and their bad haircuts and terrible clothes, and this feels a lot like that. Like, it's sort, but lazier, much lazier. You'd think with this connectivity we've had, people would put more effort in, but it's really gone the opposite direction. So it's like Rock the Boat, but lazy. But that's where we are. That's what this is, and I don't see that getting better with time, because we've seen in the last several elections, it's not exactly, our technology has not really moved that fast. So, what was going on in 2016, internet wise, connectivity wise, is still going on in 2024. So, this is probably the laziest election, I think, of all time that of our modern times. I mean, like, who knows? Like you don't know about 1864 or some shit, I don't know. But like the of our modern times, this, I think, is the most lazy election. Now that I've gone on for a long time here and coughed a bunch, I think we're going to turn things over to Mr. Jared, who's got a story. Did you want to go into your Green Party story?
Yeah, I'm currently I'm like, which one do I go to first? We'll do the green one first, because I don't think there's not really that much to it.
Right.
And then
this is another way we're trying to get away from just talking about Dems in this episode. We do talk about Green Party quite a bit, but there's been a little controversy popping up here in the last week or so with the Green Party vice presidential candidate, Rudolph Ware. Who nobody really knew much about until he was selected, and then he kind of, if you were supporting Green Party or Jill Stein, then he kind of got on your radar. He's still kind of a mystery to a lot of us, I think.
Well, I've seen clips of him, like, where he just gets to go off in interviews and in like talks he's given, and he's pretty darn good. It just becomes that same thing where, like, months ago, I would play clips of some other foreign leader talking, and afterwards, just like, man, isn't it weird to hear a head of state making complete sentences and not just doing the whole, like, upward, never forward, forward, never backward, and twirling towards freedom, like the nothing talks that is every American every time Kamala talks, like, it's just like, man, I would love if she got to a substantive issue instead of doing this weird, like, free verse poetry about the American dream that we're supposed to get inspired by. So when you listen to Ware talk, who is the VP candidate for Jill Stein, it's like, wow, this guy, like, knows things. He's, like, studied something and doesn't sound like he's immediately trying to just, like, sell me a vague notion of, like, of joy or whatever. Like, he actually has things to talk about.
Or some colloidal silver. to try to keep you from getting COVID or something.
Like I've watched him, I've listened to him go like do debates on the Israel-Palestine issue, and he's very, very good on that, which I think is half of why he was chosen to be like, man, this guy really can talk about this with a high level of authority and knowledge. He's a very educated individual, which makes it sad and tragic when you're like, oh, cool, we found the war that the Green Party supports also, because there are 3 candidates running technically. You got your Trump-Harris like dual campaign, as I think of it, and then you have the Jill Stein running for fun, want to hit that 5%, get some federal funding campaign. And while I have very few problems with any of the things that Jill says directly, I do think it's silly how she dances around, because you can tell she's a little bit like, she feels weird about being consistently called like a Russian agent and a Chinese agent and whatever. So she's very like, oh, I gotta speak very carefully here. I need to say everyone's bad. It's like, I don't like one or the other. Like, she feels the need to go extra on like, I don't actually like Iran. Because there are people who claim that she's like an Iranian agent or whatever, right? They have that picture of her sitting at a table.
If she had more confidence, I don't think that she would feel the need to constantly like, I'm not, I swear I'm not. Like if you weren't, you're not.
They always have you on the defense is like the whole tactic. How many times are we going to have to see that picture of her at some dinner where she's at the same table as Vladimir Putin? And it's like, guys, every one of our presidents have pictures with leaders who we probably don't super love, like George W. and Obama, and they have all these pictures of them shaking hands with the Saudi Arabian guys right before they go behead a journalist or whatever. Yeah. Well, they didn't behead him. They just disappeared.
Dismembered him with a sawzall at the embassy. Yeah, and there's pictures of Hillary Clinton with Vladimir Putin. I mean, like, she's already a villain.
Oh yeah, of course. Like it just means nothing.
That's how politics works. Like, sometimes you have to hang out with people you don't fucking like. Like, that's kind of how, like, you do that at your work every day. So, that's
diplomacy.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So we got the VP here. We found out which war that the Greens do like, because while we have like the beginning, this statement starts out fine, and just if you like pay attention, here we are. If you pay attention to the entire context, you'll be like, wait, what a second. While the tragic loss of life, limb, and liberty of the Palestinian, Sudanese, Lebanese, Uyghurs, Congolese, and other peoples must be centered at all times, the imperialist genocidal order imperils us all, puts the imperative on us, all physically, not just spiritually, because they are mass polluting events. He wants to bring this back into, like, the whole point of him starting to talk about this was like, look, guys, I know bombs and killing people are bad in and of themselves, but also the bombs themselves release a ton of gases into the air that aren't good, which, yeah, that's another thing you can just throw on the pile as to why we need to stop doing wars. But you'll notice in there, he listed the Uyghurs right next to the Palestinians, Sudanese, Congolese, Lebanese, as if like, oh yes, also in the same way that Israel is bombing Palestine and that they are keeping like an open-air concentration camp and picking off children one at a time, the Chinese are doing basically the same thing to the Uyghurs, and that made a lot of people go, wait a second, oh no, he wants to go to war with China.
No! Why? No!
I know, right?
Just shut up!
So, like...
Just shut up!
So don't take this as, I am very happy to criticize China. There is no perfect place. Internally, there are tons of things you can criticize China for. I am not like a China perfect. You can't say anything bad about China or I get upset. I'm not even saying that nothing bad has happened to any Uyghur Muslim within Xinjiang province ever. Like, I'm sure there has been some level of religious oppression, more than like zero, more than none. If you compare it, if you even begin to compare the Chinese response to Islamic, like basically acts of terror, there were some bombings in Xinjiang province. And you can also argue that the CIA was ramping that shit up anyway and like trying to spark some nonsense color revolution shit. Why? Because Xinjiang happens to be the area that's like borders on with the Middle East. I think it has a border with Turkey. They have oil. Wow. Holy crap. Can you believe that Xinjiang province has a bunch of oil under it? And wouldn't it be nice if the U.S. got what it wanted, which is, I guess, an independent Xinjiang, which would be like having an independent Ohio. Like, it makes no sense at all if you like think about the region and the geography and the history of everything that's going on. So like, they would love to have that be some independent state that they can then turn into like an I don't know, an Oman or something. Like, hey, you're an oil producing client state. You can join OPEC and like dollarization and like they want to.
Especially in the time when BRICS having a big. They're getting ready to have their big annual get together, and there's so many more countries that are wanting to join than ever before.
Whenever there's a resource-rich region, we sure seem to really support their independence.
Right, exactly. But it's sort of the same, and we're going to get into this argument a little bit later, but, where the neoliberalism and neoconservatism have really merged into one idea, and there's no separating, and they're both bad. That if you look at the way that we're doing things now, according to those kind of ideals, then we end up in a situation where it's like, okay, we're going to go pick some little fart on the map, Ukraine, that has a border with Russia, and we're going to prop that little fart up and to get it to the point where it's like we're pumping it full of money and weaponry just to aggravate Russia because we want to mess with Russia.
Which was 2014. It was called the Maidan coup, which is a color revolution. Notice after that whole revolution, that whole group seemed to have just like disappeared.
Right, and then we started it up again a couple years ago. Then there was, then that didn't go so well. Kind of wearing itself out here.
They happen to be literal Banderite Nazis that Sieg Heil and wear literal
they didn't really do the research there. Yeah, they didn't. And then so what do? We get the next kind of Nazis on another fart on the map, which isn't even a state, Israel, to mess with Iran and get, So there's a methodology here. So what's the next one we're talking about that we've been talking about? Taiwan. Here's another fart on the map, and then they're gonna use it to mess with China.
So we keep buzzing our planes. We keep really hoping that China will some soldier will get freaked out and take a shot at us, because then it's like, oh fuck it, it's on now.
There's a methodology here. That's part of the idea. Is there is a methodology. Pick some little nation or area that couldn't necessarily do this by themselves. Pump them full of resources. Throw open the coffers to all the weaponry. And try to have them do the dirty work so that we can come in and take the resources, make them a resort area, take control of the region, blah, 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 blah. So that's where the whole neoconservative kind of thing comes together. So that's the way things are being done nowadays, if you're talking in terms of war games.
So let me just, while I can't fully get into all of the details, I don't even freaking know all the details of the quote-unquote Uyghur genocide. I couldn't pull up this guy's name, and I'm mad at myself. Almost all of the information that the State Department pushes and acts on, and all of the quote evidence comes from this one guy. Can't remember his name. He's this doesn't make him more right or more wrong. He's very wrong. But if you want to get an idea of the kind of guy he is, he's like a Book of Revelation style evangelical Christian who's all about the end of the world. And
wonderful.
It seems to be part of the agenda he's trying to push. But he's held up as this this scholar. He's the foremost piece of knowledge for. He's not Chinese. He's not from the region. He's just some American guy who decided who you're talking about. They were like, man, the stuff this guy is writing is really convenient justification for why we need to feel really bad towards China. Look, here's a bad. We can hold this up. Look, here's a bad thing that China's doing. Everyone feel negatively about China. So eventually, when we get this war going, you'll be more likely to support it. I want to just blow through a couple of comments here, because you'll see that his second response to that, he started hiding replies, turned off comments, of course, because you faced some kind of backlash on the internet. So that's what you got to do. He's like, stop capping for Chinese racists. I have sat with Uyghurs myself who directly suffered. Get lost. And then under that you got, bro, you fell for U.S.-backed color revolutionaries. These people are notorious liars and funded by the West. Come on. Womp womp. I was actually thinking about voting for you. Never mind. Another imperialist warmonger out of you. All right. This should have been your first clue that the story was bullshit. Israel condemns China's violation against the Muslim Uyghurs. They're so trustworthy, man. And then, just in case you're getting freaked out by, it's a man of darker complexion who is claiming racism, well, you have, half of those comments I just read were for black and Latino people in the first place, which shouldn't matter to you. It doesn't matter what color you are. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But we got,
genocide wrong, guys.
Yeah.
Genocide wrong.
We have revolutionary blackouts freaking over here. Apparently, the October surprise was the Green Party. And remember, this guy's a Green. He identifies as I am a Green voter specifically. He likes the Green Party. And he's like, the October surprise was the Green Party deciding to shitpost and piss off their base right before the election for no reason. And if you're of the mind that the Green Party has been CIA infiltrated, what better to do like 2 weeks, but a lot of people are currently voting right now. Let's get out there and talk shit about China in a way that you know will piss off all of the most left people who are the majority of the Greens like backing.
Yeah, that was sort of the first thing that came to mind to me. Like, I try to stay away from the conspiratorial thinking, but it's immediately like, oh,
wow,
you've done the thing.
The Greens shooting themselves in the foot with their biggest chunk of base of their little 5% base.
Yeah, the whole idea of being like, nobody'd even be paying attention, just like pretty much every other outsider candidate or leftist type candidate, Green Party candidate up to this point. Never really got much attention, just kind of on the fringes of things. But the reason that Jill Stein and the Greens are getting so much attention this time is because they openly oppose what's going on with.
They're the only one, the only major candidate that says no war on no, that's not even war. No more fish in a barrel with Palestine. Right. Stop sending all this money.
And then that is what's gotten people's attention, because now people are so passionate about what's going on in a way that I haven't really seen before. But I kind of wonder. If you go back a few years when the whole Uyghur thing blew up, and CNN's covering it, and everybody's a shitlib at this time, but the thing, what really kind of pushed it over the edge was kids on TikTok picked it up. And that's what kind of made it an unusual thing. Like, they just started discussing this amongst themselves, pushing the story, the narrative.
All the video, all the pictures.
You're making these videos exactly like, and then they'd get kicked off, and they'd come back, so they're like, oh, no, I'm doing it as, I'll just talk about it while I'm doing my makeup, so it looks like the algorithm think I'm doing a makeup video.
That's why we have all this, like, weird, creepy 1984 code talk where you can't say, like, anything directly anymore. You have to use, like, I realize that now, because apparently saying pedophile can, like, mess up your thing, so everyone says PDF file. Like, you can't even say, like, killed, so they'll like censor out the word. Like, you're going
I've heard that you can't use the word sex, like sex, or it'll do something. So they say seegs, segs, like segment, kind of like segs. Yeah, I don't know. It just, I get it now, because before now, the reason that they track what you're saying now on all of the apps. So we'll see if our video gets taken down because we use the words, the wordy dirts, but. Now that out of that came where they track what you're saying, so that they could do that kind of a thing, because people would do one thing and say another thing opposed to what they're doing. But I kind of wonder if that wasn't, even though it was misguided, if that, I don't want to compare the two as like, oh, these are both non sequiturs, but I wonder if that whole thing where they first started connecting that idea, the young people, the youths, on social media about the Uyghurs, if that didn't kind of accelerate the open eyes of what's going on, to pay attention to what's going on in Palestine and the surrounding areas. I did, but
I didn't. I had a thought I did not finish, where it was that China had some, like, basically, for lack of a better term, Islamic extremism going on in Xinjiang. And if you look at the response to that, the United States' response to that was to launch a bunch of wars in the Middle East, the war on terror, like that was our response to an attack. China's response has been, at least the rationale that is stated, whether or not you think they're spooky secret liars is, I don't know. But it's that if you can give people a stake in their society, if you can give someone like, look, you have prospects, there are jobs you can get, you can have your family, you can practice your religion, et cetera, that you're less likely to want to, like, go, like, strap a bomb on and fuck up a bus or a cafe or something.
Right.
So the types of punishments that are happening, like, they are screening, trying to figure out, all right, who looks like they're about to do something. But rather than, like, in the U.S., where we get the FBI to basically help them do the terror plot and then arrest them at the last second, or sometimes too late and they do the attack anyway, like in the Boston bombing. I'm just throwing out all kinds of shit today.
Yeah.
But instead of doing that, they send them to jobs programs and language. They want to make sure they can speak Chinese so they can get a job. Not that they're exterminating their language. I see there's just piles and piles of video of, like, this is a public elementary school in Xinjiang, and here they are being taught their the Uyghur language. I don't even know if Uyghur is the language, but their language. The street signs are all in both, like, it looks like Arabic to me. It probably isn't, but not Chinese and Chinese. Everyone's in their traditional garb, doing traditional dance. Like, if this is what is it? If this is genocide because they're, quote, erasing their culture, then, man, all America needs to go on trial about 10 million times
Right, yeah,
Look at our treatment of our native population.
Right.
Look at China's treatment. China's not perfect, but perfect cannot be the barometer. Perfect cannot be the measuring stick. It has to be like what is possible under the current conditions, and compare it to something like the U.S. because the U.S. has the most money. So if you're doing better than the U.S., you're probably doing at least okay. Or you certainly can't call it a genocide if you aren't going to call everything the United States is doing a genocide.
And that's a lot of the time where since we're doing a little this is the clarification episode as we kind of see it here, is we do speak positively about China quite a bit on this show. And the reason why is not because, they're so great in every way and it's some kind of lost utopia who really did right by the world. No, any major power is not going to be that. But what they have done is taken all of the, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, when America was trying to break up the unions and get slave labor, and exported all of the industry business to China to take advantage of the fact that they would work for pennies on the dollar, slave labor, quite literally, when they could do it there. Now we just do it here.
And China's leveraged that into a generally nice condition for the vast majority of their citizenry, and they do not work for pennies anymore.
No.
Like, China is not China of the 70s, 80s, or 90s. It's no longer what you think of, like, fucking 95 people in one room and they're jumping off buildings because they hate working so much. It's like, there is more upward mobility in frickin' China. The I don't know who said this quote, but it's like the American dream is alive and it's in China, but like it just seems to be really true, where if you work there, you eventually get a reward for doing work. Where here, you'll work till you die, and you're worse off than when you started the whole cycle, like through various kinds of rent extracted from you.
Yes. And we all know, we could go into everything again like we always do, but, to that point, we all know, we all have elderly people in our lives who we know can't get by on Social Security. Their retirement was, their pension was turned into a 401k. They don't have the money, they have to work, until they're 85, 90 years old. And somebody does a fundraiser, like, get them the fuck out of this Walmart, this is enough. And everybody's like, yay, or get this. This guy's worked at Burger King for like 40 years and they gave him some Reese cups. So let's buy him a house, like with mutual aid. We live in a really shitty society because we're spending all of the money on wars that are enriching the top 1% of the country, including our politicians. So our politicians are compromised. Whether or not the structure of politics works on a similar system, a similar or different kind of corruption in China. The intricacies of that I am not an expert in, but whatever they have done, they have invested what they got back into themselves, and they've got, you can look at pictures from the 90s where it's nothing in a place, and now it's a mega city, bigger than anything we would ever have here. And I'm not saying I love that. I don't, but for them, for their needs, because of the population density, that is something that works for them quite well, and especially on the world stage. And I don't remember exactly when it was, but sometime in the last few years, they lifted their one-child policy.
Yeah, like 2012, 2016, something like that.
Yeah, it was a few years ago that it was lifted. But that was in place forever, And if you're not familiar, the population was so dense and they couldn't support it so much that excuse me, that there was a federal, like a political, like a ban. You could not have more than one child. You could not. It was illegal. And the stakes were really high on that too. And people don't like to hear about it. But actually, when I was in school, and I'm talking about high school, early high school, we had a student that came. He wasn't an exchange student. He had moved from China to America, and he was there. And I was in this. We had an English class together where we had this very meek, mild, super religious teacher who, kind of couldn't say boo to a ghost type of a woman. Very, very strong believer, right? So she starts kind of openly in the classroom chatting to him about what life was like, what kind of things go on. And they get on that one-child policy topic. And I'm in my head sitting there like 14 years old, like, don't do this. You don't know what you're getting into here, woman. You don't know what you're doing. And then he literally said to the class that, because obviously we know how pregnancy happens. We know when life finds a way, right? So he openly said to the class, without realizing that this was going to be some kind of taboo, and I'm sure she melted the fuck down after this, and because she was shaking. he said to her, or announced to the class very casually, that sometimes if the wife got pregnant again, that the father would take care of the baby, meaning exactly what you think it does. I don't want to say the words so that we don't get, but just on their own, handle the situation. It would be born. He would thus handle it. It's not, it's a pretty fucked up situation, obviously, that we don't like to think about here, and especially all the nonsense abortion arguments about, okay, like, be forced into that and then talk to me, right? So he said this openly to the class, and it was a very religious area, school, place. Anyway, it wasn't a religious school, but it was a highly religious population. And he did not realize that it would have been a taboo to say that. This woman was actively shaking in her boots to hear it. So that was, let me see, that was a good 25 years ago, that type of a thing happened. And it actually just kind of jogged my memory. I didn't even remember that it had happened, but until we got on this topic. But they have lifted that policy now. So at least that, maybe that's not going on as much anymore. And that's a good thing, that they can support a larger population, that families can have larger families. And you could sometimes see newsreels that came out of China, where sometimes the mothers who had maybe lost their older children to illness, or like a car accident or something like that had essentially become so incensed by it that they were no longer functional. That they, so it was only having this one child, and you think oh, they're so different from us. They're not. They're not. We're all the same people. People want children. People want to love their families. People want to have lots of children sometimes. Sometimes they don't. But if you're told you can't, that's kind of a big deal. And
in the 70s and 80s, there was another, just like there kind of is now, there was a big push amongst the scientific community talking about overpopulation. Right. So China's in there, we're a big country now. We are proper science. We do things. We're not this backward farm nation. So overpopulation, got it. And they sent a guy all right, so we're gonna take on overpopulation. This is a serious thing that everyone in the West is talking about. Let's make some moves to reduce our population. So you end up with the one-child policy. And what other Western country did any of that? No,
right.
It only China did. So it's not that they were tricked, because at the time there's all this science from all these big universities, all these Harvard and Princeton dudes are over there overpopulation is going to be the end of the world. We all, as advanced nations, need to take steps to reduce our population. And China's let's do it. And then they're sitting there 30 years later fuck this, no one is doing this, and the science has turned out to be wrong and dumb. Yeah. Overpopulation just is false. If anyone gets on that real hard,
and it's really ruined our lives significantly as a culture, the trauma that kind of inflicts as a culture. And I mean, nobody in India did that, right? And they're mega population density, right? I'm not sure the numbers, but I would imagine they rival each other, China versus, just India right there. I mean,
it's kind of an interesting flip to look at, because they kind of started their development, in their industrialization, very similar times.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of an almost too easy comparison of look, capitalist production versus socialist production. Look at these two countries and look which would you rather be the average citizen within? Yeah. It's not that India is a complete hellhole. I don't want to get too rough on India, but I would have a much harder time being a rando tourist in India, let alone just living there. I mean, we've all seen the just insane slums, and that right next to insane wealth. It looks like it's yes. Dubai right next to a shanty town, and right. That kind of thing just doesn't really happen in China. Right. You might not have a glorious, amazing, humongous apartment or house, but you're going to have somewhere to live. You're at least going to get a equivalent of a studio apartment here, as long as you're doing some kind of work. They've essentially eliminated poverty. And if you're happy that the one-child policy is gone, which I am, I think it was a bad policy. I'm glad that's been changed. That's President Xi Jinping was one of the guys you know what? I think it's about enough with this one-child policy. I mean, not just him; it's his whole wing of the party. But the fact that China shows willingness to change course, that's kind of nice. Also, I don't know. I don't want to spend the whole time.
Yeah, but think of how mega that is. In a place that size, that for that many generations, we're talking about generational trauma. We're talking about a lot of life loss, and that kind of a thing. So it's that is a major, major thing to have happened. So it's if you want to talk down China, go right ahead. You should. They have their own issues that need to be dealt with. No place is perfect. I know that I could probably cherry pick some things that I'm not happy about. I don't like. We don't need to. We can move on to another topic. But the point is this is not supposed to be the China show. But the point is the reason that we talk up China so much is because we're jealous. We're jealous as hell of the fact that they have these high-speed rail systems and that they can make it a damn day. Like they can move mountains, and they do. And we know that we can do that too here, and that's why we're so mad. That's why a lot of conservatives come at us as individuals based on comments that we make, because then they think that we're in the same boat. They're like, why are you sending this money off to wherever, and then for whatever, and then we're not, we live in a slum basically in America, like, and look at China, like they can manage it. So that's where a lot of the overlap comes in, and why we're always talking about, like, political spectrum be damned. You don't have to have a name on what you are to know that things are not right here, and absolutely should be. And in the old days, your grandparents, you've heard them talk about the land of milk and honey, and it's like, what world do you live in? Like maybe when you got out of the war at the end of it, and then, like, you got the GI Bill, and you had your nice house that you bought for pennies on the dollar, and you got your family and your 100 kids, and you could afford it on one income, and you took vacations and everything. What did that last, like 10 years? Like after the war. So, and then another war started up, and then by the time Vietnam came around, they realized they could make tons of money off that shit. It was off to the races, and that's how we ended up in this new world of war everything. Not that we didn't have that war mentality before, generationally in the history of things, but it wasn't like our main mode of generating income. Let's say it that way, I guess. So that's how we end up where we are. So the reason that China comes up as much as it does, and it comes up favorably, is because we're jealous, and we think that we should be entitled to a lot of the same things that they have made look easy, quite frankly. Just pushing some policies around, deciding we're going to invest in ourselves, really making the most. They didn't take that money that America invested in them to use them as slave labor and then, like, put it out into something else. They used it on themselves, and that's exactly what we should be doing. And if you're thinking like, oh well, how could we have that much money? It's kind of unknown how much America has in just liquid asset. It's kind of unknown. We have more money than you could ever even fathom. Let's just go there. Really, that's where it is. The whole thing of it. We shall operate on slavery money. There is money, like, well, I mean, like, what I'm talking about, like the traditional slavery. But, like, there is so much asset and so much money, and we have so much going everywhere, every which way, and making more off of it, that we absolutely could go fight every country in the world if we wanted to, and throw all these billions of dollars at them, while still being able to live the kind of quality of life that China has given themselves. There is money enough for it. And that would be a great way to shut people up about war. That's another thing we've been saying all the time throughout this, is that why don't they just why don't the Democrats who are in charge right now throw out a couple of these, like people-pleasing policies? That's where we are. But, in terms of, because we wanted to talk about Republicans, they have no people-pleasing policies. They are not interested in making you happy. and seeing the Democrats leaning into those policies and celebrating their connections with them is really gross. So you may have seen.
War, speaking of war, I do have a pivot into our Republican coverage. And Nicolette, if you want to look at the chat, we might have a weird.
Obviously staged, but they all do that kind of thing. So that doesn't bother me. And I've lost my connection.
Am I going out, or is Nicolette going out?
It's me.
I can still hear you. You've now.
Okay, yeah, no, my thing went down. So no, I'm here in spirit. I'm gonna get my connect back going again. Come on.
If you look at the chat, there's something about a link that you may or may not be able to change. I don't know the ins and outs of Restream, but I'm gonna pivot us to the other of the, all of our many choices here. What war do the Republicans like? Because one of the arguments that I'll hear from people as to why they support Donald Trump over Harris is that he's like the peace candidate, basically, that he's going to either start fewer wars or end some of our nonsense wars. I do very much like when Like what he was talking about, like I'm gonna end the forever wars. And if I believed that was true, I'd probably vote for him. Like if it really was war candidate Harris, anti-war candidate Trump, that would make some kind of daylight between them. There would be something substantial to talk about, as opposed to like who brings the most joy or doesn't, or whatever the campaign is currently vibes based. Well, this is just like yesterday. Trump urges Bibi to, quote, do what he wants to do with potential Iran strike. The Republicans really want to go to war with Iran, and like so do the Democrats. The Republicans have wanted to bomb Iran since I was first coming into political awakeness. I don't know, like around the 2000s. Former President Donald Trump says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu should, quote, do what he wants to do with regards to a potential retaliatory strike against Iran. Well, I can't do the voice. Well, I think Netanyahu is going to do what he wants to do, and I think he has to do that. Okay, well, that's already technically kind of a different sentence in the headline, isn't it? Trump told Saudi state-owned news outlet Al Arabiya in an interview that aired Sunday, when asked if he'd support Israeli airstrikes inside the Islamic Republic in response to Iran's October 1st missile barrage on Israel. And I do want to just bring up, because it's worth mentioning, whenever Iran strikes Israel, they seem way more capable of hitting not civilians. Like, more than 0 civilians have died in Iran's bombings of Israel at this point, but it seems to be they're pretty capable of hitting specifically military targets. That is only relevant because when Israel does bombings on Palestine, Lebanon, and everybody else in the world, they're like, man, we're doing the best we can. We're being as precise as humanly possible, and just unfortunately, there's some collateral damage with these civilians, and we're doing everything we can to prevent civilian deaths. And it's like, why is Iran better at preventing civilian deaths than you? They're this like. They don't have the full weight of the American military behind them. They don't have the most cutting-edge military technology ever seen on Earth, and they seem pretty capable of hitting specific targets that they want to hit. Also, Israel, when they want to, can be very, very precise. They've been doing some assassinations lately, and they are like pinpoint accurate. So then that begs the question, why are you shooting all these children all the time if you are capable of precision strikes, of sticking bombs in people's pagers or whatever? Like, why don't you instead do that to take out Hamas and not, just like carpet bomb entire city blocks? Trump, 78. I don't know why it's funny to me that they put his age like in the third paragraph. Like, Trump, 78, Capricorn, went on to slam President Biden's horrible record on foreign policy and urged Netanyahu, 75, Aries, to do the opposite of whatever the 81-year-old commander-in-chief suggests. Like, what? Why are these ages showing up? I guess they're reminding us Biden's real old.
Yeah, it's just to try to say how like everybody is just useless and old and stupid, and like that's part of the problem.
Biden was giving him some very bad look. Biden has been historically horrible on foreign policy, incompetent, the Republican nominee for president said in the interview. I would say what you do is anything Biden says, do the opposite, and you'll be brilliant, Trump said. That's funny. But Biden gave Bibi instructions not to do anything, and Israel's under great danger. So it really is just both candidates saying, I'm the most pro-Israel. This is him saying that Biden secretly is telling Bibi not to do anything, and that's why Israel is under great danger, meaning Israel is not currently protecting itself as hard as it protecting itself in giant scare quotes as hard as it should. This is Trump saying that Israel should be bombing more. And is that because Trump truly believes? I don't think Trump truly believes anything. Same thing with Kamala Harris. They just say what they have to say to get in the office. And AIPAC, the Israel lobby, is both of them. It controls both of them. Kamala, I think literally married her AIPAC handler. That you get assigned an AIPAC person who just stands. It's like your lawyer, but they're in the back just okaying and not okaying things you're gonna say or not say. And that sounds like an exaggeration, but it is not. Both candidates, the single Uniparty candidate that is Trump, Biden, Trump Harris, I guess, man, what year is it? Well, it was only months ago when it was going to be Biden. Remember that? Either way, you are voting for AIPAC, and AIPAC always wins. They have won for the last, couple generations, and it's not because the Jews secretly run the world. It's all about money. It's all about influence. It's a method of class control, and it's more evidence that our leadership, our supposed leadership, the people that we elect, are not the top layer of power. They have bosses above them, and they are doing an American Idol audition for who gets to represent them and be the most effective cheerleader. And if you are not the most effective cheerleader, Joseph Robinette Biden, you will be yanked. There will be no democratic process about it. You just are not the candidate anymore. We have found a more acceptable vessel for our advertising, just like when they changed Colonel Sanders to a different actor. If you say something anti-KFC, you're not going to be working as Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, and then people like to be like Illuminati. Like, no, it's right in front of your face, guys. It's right
not
there.
Secret. It's
Illuminati is called it's RPAC, so that's what it is. they call the shots apparently, and it's a very confusing relationship to me, because it's like we're basically just sending money back and forth about who is what and what is when, and we just share money with each other, I guess. And as Jared says that, with Kamala Harris essentially marrying her handler, it doesn't hurt their bottom line because she's received over $5 million in dollars in donations from.
That's not even saying they don't love each
so.
other. It's like a fake marriage. Maybe they love each other very much. Either way, it's a co-beneficial relationship for them to have.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't mean, exactly. It doesn't mean that it's still not working out for them. But Trump has only gotten about $1 million on his own. And if I was him, as greedy as he is, I'd be like, hey, you owe me $4 million.
I'm up here saying crazy shit. You better pay me.
And, it's hard to even think about. We've been through it once already, and people invalidly say so. What's going on right now under the Democrats is worse than what happened with Trump at the time. And then people always counter with, but he'll genocide so much worse. You can't. And genocide is a genocide. But the thing of it is that when you get that kind of bad faith argument, that it is a fact that things are actually worse for domestically and internationally than they were then. But my personal thinking about it is that it probably would have happened sooner. This whole dust up and put it lightly, with Israel and Palestine, them deciding to make the move now, probably would happen closer to his watch had COVID not fallen into his lap. That really, I think, really fucked his plans up pretty big, because we knew when he was going into office that it was really for him. He didn't give a shit about people, or he just wants to be a celebrity, as they all do, but him in particular. And that it was about making money and punishing his enemies. That was really his motivation for becoming president. And that's where we really ended up in a place where he didn't really get to enact any significant war things or do anything. And he was coming into the job and he was kind of stupid, and everybody always wanted to talk about he watches TV all day, and
it revealed how fake the presidency is.
And he doesn't know what's going on. And he filled all the bookshelves with his own book.
And it led up directly to our current guy. We currently have Biden, who just is a non-president.
Right.
It's like
he was the step. That was really it.
Oh, you can be a president who doesn't know how to do anything because the president can't actually do anything. That's what we learned under Trump. And then, Nicolette, your connection's being weird.
There are other people. I know, I see that. I don't know what to do about it. Here, I'm going to hop off my video real quick, and then.
You had the step down from Obama, who looked like he was doing tons of stuff. It looks like, wow, the president's really up there kicking ass. And then you step down to Trump, who is like, man, this guy seems to want to do, he said he was going to do all this stuff, but he doesn't seem to be able to get any of it done. And every time he gets something, quote, done, it gets just knocked down by the courts or some other process. To now you have Biden, who is a corpse president. We just basically don't have a president. So it's like, oh, guys, can it be any more clear that what I'm saying is accurate? Jeez, well, we have your connection going down and my throat fighting with me. Could it be any more obvious that we do not choose leaders, we choose mascots. We choose representatives of capital to come and sing and dance for us and try to make us feel good about ourselves, while those people themselves have almost no power except to, I guess they have a little power when they, if they give a speech, they can change the vibe. It doesn't change policy, but it can change kind of how you feel about it.
Right. And Trump really kind of pulled the mask off of how useless and stupid the whole thing is. And that's where we are now. I don't know if my connection's any better now, but things are going crazy. But anyway, that's where we, if you can hear me, that's all that matters. That, kind of was a unintended, I guess, sort of benefit when it comes to people, because that really drove people a lot out of the political process more than they ever really had been before.
It exposed how bullshit it is, and a whole bunch of people went, all right, I'm out. That's enough for me.
Right. Exactly. And that, when we look at it from our end, who want, the whole thing to just be nullified and not even exist anymore, and we will operate on some new system that benefits the people. That's a good thing. For them, it's like, wait, no, it's super serious. We got to get super serious about it, guys. It's prestigious and it's real. And it's like, if this dope, if you can elect this dope to do the dumbest job possible, and then the next guy you put in there that nobody voted for or wanted is super dope. And then now we have it's just, again, it's the Wall-E future that I'm always talking about, where they just get stupider and more useless to the point that they are just not even doing anything, and they literally are, as Jared says, just mascots.
Because it's more like the Miss
point.
America pageant than an actual democratic election for leaders. The Miss America does not have to be smart. She just has to be good at representing the organization that is Miss America or Miss Universe. One of those is owned by or major sponsored by Trump, which is a coincidence. I didn't mean to draw that parallel. But if people were selected for leadership skills, that's, I think, one of the last criteria. It's more about, can you fundraise? Can you get people behind you in a PR way? Not can you get people behind you to actually go do anything. We had, and I should bring this up, unless you have a third topic, you want to talk about McDonald's? The Trump McDonald's?
No, I'm down with it completely. My favorite thing that's happened here recently was just where he decided he didn't want to do any more talking at the one rally, so they just listened to that one. I liked a lot.
The reasonable explanation I've heard for that, for why, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, there was a rally where for about 20 minutes, Trump was talking.
I think it was closer to 40 minutes.
It was quite a while. It was a long period of time. Trump was doing one of his speeches, doing a rally, and then he just was basically standing up there kind of just vibing with his own playlist. And the song selections are all a little bit funny and just surreal, because you just see Trump there and there's a big crowd, and he's listening to Ave Maria and stuff.
Yeah, right. And the Village People, he's got gay anthems playing. He's got weird Frank Sinatra songs playing. It's just this very odd.
It's his playlist too. Well, the explanation I've heard is that there was some kind of, because you'll also hear people are passing out at the Trump rallies for various reasons, and they have issues where his campaign isn't paying the buses. There's also that people are just really old. But what I heard is that the reason that he was just basically hanging out was that they were dealing with multiple people who had passed out, and he's like, well, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to do a speech while they're carting these people out on gurneys, so I guess we'll just wait. And then eventually it just well, we're kind of over time now, so I guess we're just done.
Yeah, and they don't show you that part, where the people are getting pulled out, but they should, though, because if you think back to old footage you've seen at when Michael Jackson would do concerts, these big stadium concerts, and they'd literally have to have paramedics and in the crowd, they were lifting and pulling people out because they were just passing out like crazy.
People died because they got trampled at those shows.
Yeah, that's the thing. People were just passing out all over the place because they were so tightly packed into these, and they were so emotionally overwhelmed. They should have played up that. They should have done that. Because it used to be in old footage and Moonwalker and stuff like that. You would see that where that was going on, and it's just whoa, these people are so moved they just pass out. So they should have leaned into it. But I hadn't actually heard that explanation. Right? Yeah. There's some medical issues going on.
I would.
But yeah, the McDonald's thing I think was a fun follow up for sure.
All right, let me pull up
that. I saw a clip today. I think it was on Fox News. And I don't know the real origin or the real, because when people make clips and tweet clips, you can't always be sure what's going on. But it was really really funny because the caption had said something to the do you know how hard you have to like make up a lie to get Trump to react this way. And somebody in the crowd had said that their bills had gone from like $2,500 a month to like $15,000. And they said that to him, and he goes, "What?" Like, I think it was, he reacted so stringently because they messed up the lie, but it was very funny.
Well, we got, if you haven't already heard about it, Trump at the man. Nicolette's connection is just, Nicolette's internet is just
Here recently,
really making it hard. Oh,
yeah,
you're back.
all over the place today.
You froze for a sec. Now we got
Yeah,
audio, no
sorry about
video.
that.
I'm gonna read about McDonald's while hopefully the internet is merciful for our last like 5 minutes here. Trump thrusts McDonald's into the political arena in final days of campaign. If you didn't see, he did a little campaign stunt where he went to a McDonald's, he worked the fryer for a little bit, and the only thing that is, it shouldn't be surprising anymore to me, but whenever you watch this guy interact with just like regular ass people, they always respond. I mean, you're gonna be a little bit, even if you don't like Trump, you're gonna have like this, like, oh, I'm around the frickin' a former president and just like very famous person. Isn't this weird? Like, you're probably not gonna have like a kind of reaction to him. Like, not that you're necessarily gonna, oh, now I love him. So like, I know that people aren't just behaving in a very natural way necessarily because they know they're on camera, they know that they're with a big important guy, and they know that their boss is going to be mad if they like fuck it up. I really wonder with these employees if like the manager was like, okay guys, we're doing the Trump thing, who can work and not like you can't call him an asshole, we're going to be on camera. So I wonder if that happens, or if it's just, oh, I was just coming into my normal shift today and looks like I'm on duty to teach the former president how to do fries.
I get the impression they were handpicked.
This is my favorite guy. This is the guy who teaches him how to do fries. I love. But everyone always seems to have like he always makes them laugh at least a couple times because he just comes across as like he comes across as weirdly normal, which is I think why this is both a very effective political stunt and why people on the left are just like bamboozled that it happened. Like, how are people falling for this? Don't they know it's fake? It's like, we do know it's fake, but it's all pandering. The kind of pandering. This is just like more effective pandering. What does the left do? They tell you how stupid and dumb and bad you are, and if you weren't so bad, this whole country would be better, you bad person who thinks bad thoughts. And then Trump's over there like, yeah, I'm working the fry later.
He's never looked so happy in his entire life. Like, that was, I think, the best part of the whole thing is he was just like beaming to put the fries into the goddamn hopper.
He is in his natural environment. Oh, will you please just show some of the footage, CNN? I don't want to hear this lady talk. There he is. Look at him. Look at him go. And, like, of course, all the customers, like, it is all plants. If you think that Trump just walked up to a McDonald's and was like, hey, is it cool if I work here for a few minutes? Like, you don't understand how anything works, and you are the naive person that you're, like, criticizing other people for being. But Trump's working the fry later.
And that's not an unusual thing to do. That's, you know, other
Obama's in there doing the beer thing, like.
Yeah, like when he would go, when they go into restaurants, like, you know, and they get Joe Biden buys an ice cream or they're going to eat ribs and act like they're part of the community or whatever and take questions for people. They're not just dropping into some rando restaurant at, 1:30 in the afternoon. This is a meticulously scheduled thing just for safety reasons alone.
Trump got shot a few weeks
ago.
Like,
don't forget, okay?
He's not going out just willy-nilly. Except, actually, do you remember there was a J.D. Vance one a little while ago where he just went into some store and all the store people were just like, just seemed really uncomfortable. I'm like, did they not set this one up? Is this an actual just like going for it at the subway or wherever it is?
I don't know what it is, but it's like as soon as he was picked for VP, it seemed to be like Trump's biggest like plan is to just make him look like the biggest jerk off possible, just set him up for Vance, bad disaster shit.
Vance is like the swamp man that they had to put in to, which is also why I'm like, they're not gonna drain the swamp. His VP, they forced him to do this weirdo VP pick who's like, hi, I'm the I'm the representative of the financial sector I'm Trump's handler, because he's supposed to be like the Dick Cheney to the Trump, where he actually is gonna be doing things and Trump will be hanging out.
I'm the hillbilly elegy man.
I saw somebody on a plane reading that next to me, and I wanted to ask. I was like, What is? Are you reading this because you like him? Because you want to know about him? Like, why are you reading this book? Anyway, Donald Trump is pulling one of the most iconic American companies, McDonald's, into the political arena in the final days of his third White House bid. The former president stopped by one of the fast food chain's Pennsylvania franchises during his Sunday swing through the Keystone State, where he swapped his suit jacket for an apron to work as a fry attendant. He later handed customers food through the drive-thru window at the restaurant, which was closed for the event, telling them he had made it himself and it was all on him, meaning like free.
Which he then did not pay for, as per usual.
Manning the fry machine is the same job Vice President Kamala Harris said she held as a young woman. I do want to point out that no one is hired to just do fries. It's really funny when people are like, I used to do the fries. It's like, no, you did everything, or you didn't actually work there. No one is hired as the fry-a-later person. You're doing all that shit at once. I worked at Burger King. I actually worked at Burger King, not just for like 10 seconds on camera. A biographical detail revealed during her first campaign for president. It has since become the centerpiece of a middle-class origin story she has made key to her pitch to voters as the Democratic Party's presidential nominee. So Trump is trying to do like basically a gotcha of like he had a tweet, which again, I hate that he's so funny, but it was like, after doing these 15 minutes of work at McDonald's, I've now worked 15 minutes longer than Kamala Harris ever has in her life.
Oh, man.
It's really in the same way that it's fake when he does it, it is fake when Kamala's bringing up, like, I'm this broke person who grew up broke. It's like, motherfucker, you were the child of, like, a Harvard professor and a diplomat, and you lived in 6 different countries before you were 10. It's okay to have grown up in a weird, privileged diplomat kind of scenario. It's just weird when you try to say that isn't what happened. Right. You grew up partially in Canada. Like, when she was a teenager, she was living in Canada. Why? Because she was on some kind of mission diplomatic thing from one of her parents. Like, she grew up in that kind of situation, not like, I was in a trailer park and I worked my way out by doing third shift at the McDonald's, which is what they want to portray. Trump, whose deep affection for the Golden Arches and its offerings is well documented. That's the other thing why it kind of works, is everyone knows that Trump organically does love McDonald's. Like, it's not a fake thing. He eats that shit like every day because he thinks it's cleaner. He's a germaphobe, and he thinks that the fast food is somehow less, like, when he's doing the fries, he makes a comment where he's like, see, never touched by a human hand, and I'm like, what do you think is happening in, like, Olive Garden? You think they're just rubbing their face all over?
That was another reason why when the whole dossier thing came out on him, and they were like, the pee-pee tapes, and I'm like, he did not allow anybody's pee near him, period. Like, end of sentence. Like, he probably, like, would throw up and die if a splash of pee touched him. So true. I like that was even people who were like against Trump were sort of like when that came out, they're like, isn't he supposed to with the germs? I don't know about that one.
So he says, I'm looking for a job, Trump said to the owner of the McDonald's in where is it? Feasterville, Trevose. I'm from Pennsylvania. I've never heard of either of that like co-town thing.
Is it real?
I've always wanted to work at McDonald's, but I never did. I'm running against somebody that said she did, but it turned out to be a totally phony story. Harris has largely ignored Trump, as well as calls from his supporters and inquiries from conservative news outlets to provide proof of her time there. And it's like, I don't necessarily need to see this proof, but it's like, why don't you just prove it then if it's so easy? If like the whole Obama birth certificate thing, there was a birth certificate produced. Like, all right, assholes, here it is. Like, there was eventually evidence produced of that. Show us that you worked at McDonald's. Freaking pull out a tax return. Pull out a W-2. Like, have somebody vouch for you. Where's the manager of that? You think that McDonald's guy doesn't remember that, oh my God, one of my employees is the vice president right now.
Right, and it's going to be president, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, that guy tells that to everybody he's ever met in his entire life. I completely took advantage of and abused Kamala Harris as a teenager when I was her boss. Yay, McDonald's.
Well, you can't abuse her too much because she's got rich parents who will come in and kick your ass.
True. Yeah, so if she ever actually had to do that, it was probably because she was being punished for something.
Yeah, right. But they say that she worked in Alameda, California in the summer of '83 when she was a student at Howard University in Washington. Well, wait a second. Student, I guess it'd be the summer while she's off work. Because I'm like, how is she working in California while going to Howard and Washington? On Drew Barrymore's talk show earlier this year, Harris told the actor, "I did fries, and then I did the cashier," which is a funny way to say it. As as a presidential candidate in 2019, Harris mentioned her work at the fast food chain. So apparently she talks about this all the time. So while joining the striking McDonald's workers on a picket line. All right. Well, I mean,
She's
cool.
using it as some kind of qualifier, like I am one of you.
Oh, exactly. It's like I carry hot sauce in my purse. I'm a regular person.
Yeah, exactly like that. And then I think the funniest thing about the hot sauce in the purse thing was, just to jump on this real quick, was that like people came to her defense and they're like, no, she's been doing that forever. She loves to eat hot sauce. There's pictures from forever.
She drinks hot sauce.
She drinks it. She drinks it on airplane rides. She puts it in her eyes to stay awake. And it's like the people who defend these people are just like the worst. And it's like, could you people just please have some objectivity?
The same people who will freak out about like this McDonald's thing is totally fake, and it's like, yeah, man, we all know it's all fake. It's just, is it an effective ad or not? And I think this is a more effective ad.
It is. It's exactly like it's advertising. And I think what the confusion is even now, people you would think that people would be more savvy about the idea of how film production works, TV film, because it's such a big cultural thing now, with the streaming and everything. There's shows on everywhere for everything. And I know people live in places where stuff gets closed down, like all of Georgia closes down when The Walking Dead's shooting something. So it's like you would think that, people would have a more savvy understanding. I mean, well, I guess that's going quite a bit far.
I think we do. I think it's other people accusing others like, oh, you're being tricked. It's like, I don't think they are. We all kind of know how everyth's works now. We all watch TikTok.
It's such a big part of the economy. It's such a big part of like culture, for these things. There's a lot of places like in Indiana and stuff where they don't shoot anything because there's no tax incentives to do it. But there's a lot of places that do, that do these things. So like I've stood on the sidelines while somebody shot a film or something like this. Like people should understand this is that they were shooting a film. They were shooting propaganda material. They were shooting stuff to be seen. So put it in the exact same light. Does that not make it stupid? No, of course it's still stupid. Does it not make it? It's a commercial. Essentially, it was a commercial. And it was literally a strike back to try it, because she's brought that up at least twice publicly that she was doing it. So he's like, oh, you can do it, so can I. It's so complicated. So ultimately, it kind of comes out as still ultimately talking down the worker to try to say, oh, she can do it, I can do it. So and they don't deserve, $25 an hour to do this job, yada, 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 yada.
Man, and the Dems can't even come out and like have a big fight about that, because it's like, well, who's been running the government for the last 4 years? Why have you not done anything on minimum wage? Is Kamala even like promising to raise it?
Right.
I've heard like vague, like things will be better, but is she a big minimum wage fighter at this point? Like, how do you get on with a straight face and say, we're the minimum wage people, we fight for the workers? It's like, well, dude, you've run the government for like, what is it, 6 of the last 10 years, and we got absolutely nothing to show for it.
Right.
I want to see Kamala do the exact same media stunt, because I want to see if she's capable of being as comfortable around people as Trump seems to be. Like, I don't think I'm not going to vote for him for president. I don't really think anybody should either, or Harris. But he can be around people and comes across as like a human being, and I want to see Kamala have to do that, because she seems incapable of not being a weirdo.
Yeah. He's got a strange affability, and I think that's what has drawn people to him quite a bit. They always put him in this idea of being a political outsider. One of us, going to make us money. He's a billionaire. He knows how to make money. And
being a TV host, I think, helped him, because if you're a TV host, you got to get people to talk to you, and he certainly can do that. He's
always been able to do that. He's always, if you go way back into the 80s and stuff, he's been really always able to manipulate the media and get people to pay attention to him when like there was no reason to pay attention to a guy who is rich and nobody for not anything for no other skills. Like not like, oh, I'm a cool guy, like, it's just because he was rich. So he's always been able to get the media to pay attention. He's always kind of been able to one-on-one with people in a weird way. And that's always really helped him in all of this, coming out all the way up to this point. But
the Kamala Big Mac challenge.
Yeah. Well, our own Mr. Mayor Jared has got his guitar now, which generally means me shut up. So Thank you for joining us for another, I'm sure, amazing episode. You're so lucky of Social Contract. We appreciate you. Thanks for participating in the chat and all that. And I'm going to turn you over now. We'll be back next week with whatever horrible thing when we're a week out. Quick programming note before I do shut up. We are going to the election. We're on Tuesdays, and the election is going to be Tuesday, November 5th. So we're going to come on a day later on the 6th, Wednesday the 6th that week after next, so that we can not have to speculate about what's going to happen, but actually talk about what did. So
sorry, Hawaii, your vote doesn't matter.
We're gonna be talking about in majorities there. So thank you again for joining us. We're glad to be with you and talk about these horrible things and keep each other company. So now let's turn things over to Mr. Jared and enjoy his wonderful styling. So see you later, everybody.
I've definitely done this song before, but I want to do it again because I like it. It's called Why You Gotta Be Like That, which is about customer-facing jobs, such as McDonald's. Everything I've said up to this point you can't ignore. Everything I've done you can't forget. I've just realized that I'm talking to an idiot. Yes, my quota has been filled, okay, I'm set. Put yourself where I am, take a peek inside. I don't do things just to mess with you. You aren't even on my radar. And hey, I'm not inconsiderate. Believe me, yeah, I care. I just... can you slow down? Would you let me get a word in? Oh, why you gotta be like that? I try to do what you want me to, but it never seems quiet enough. Oh, why you gotta be like that and think that I might not be like that too? Spending every hour I can stand to sit alone, spending every ounce of patience on the kind of stuff a kindergarten teacher would roll her eyes at. How about we take a look at what I actually said? Put yourself where I am. Do you have a clue what a wasted piece of energy it would be to deal with you? But let me type up my rebuttal, see if I can help you out. I just, here you go. Here's something else for you to subtweet. Oh, why you gotta be like that? I try to do what you want me to, but it never seems quite enough. Oh, why you gotta be like that and think that I might not be like that too? Oh, 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 I got no money, the wrong kind of fame. I've been running up my credit card trying to burn off some of this pain. Whoa, yeah. The Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Oh. The end.